This episode mentions death and suicide quite a bit. Please keep this in mind when you decide whether you want to listen and whether you want your children to hear this episode. Though I do hope you'll stay. You're a police officer responding to an anonymous tip about a mass suicide. You and your partner get into your police vehicle and head for the address that the caller provided you with. You're not quite sure what to expect. The closest thing that comes to mind is Jonestown. You remember the newsreels of that massacre. You can see in your mind the images of the piled up bodies. You secretly hope this is all a joke. You get out of your vehicle and enter the house. Immediately, the smell of rotting flesh burns your nose. It is eerily quiet in the house. Everything is pristine, not a hair out of place. The only thing amiss is the 39 dead bodies you found lying in cots and bunk beds. They all have a bag next to them. Everyone you find dead wears the same pants, shirts, and shoes. You can't reach your radio to call for backup quickly enough. Red alert! Hail Bob brings closure to Heaven's Gate. Whether Hail Bob has a companion or not is irrelevant from our perspective. However, its arrival is joyously very significant to us at Heaven's Gate. The joy that our older member in the evolutionary level above human, the Kingdom of Heaven, has made it clear to us that Hail Bob's approach is the marker we've been waiting for. The time for the arrival of the spacecraft from the level above human to take us home to their world in the literal heavens. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world and go with T's crew. If you study the material on this website, you will hopefully understand our joy and what our purpose on Earth here has been. You may even find your boarding pass to leave with us during this brief window. We are so very thankful that we've been the recipients of this opportunity to prepare for membership of their kingdom and to experience their boundless caring and nurturing. How did we get here? Welcome to How Did We Get Here, the podcast where we dive deep and dissect the world of infamous and current cults and unearth the hidden psyche of their leaders. I am Emily, your guide in this journey and a professional psych nurse. That being said, I'm not formally diagnosing anybody with anything on this show. I am only coming from my experience and research when I talk about mental disorders or other psychological phenomena. Every week, we'll examine the often overlooked allure of the macabre that has lured countless individuals into their fold. Together, we'll delve into infamous cults like the Manson family, People's Temple, and the lesser known ones that just might be springing up in your neighborhood. This week's episode concludes my series on Heaven's Gate. We discuss the lives of its leaders, beliefs, and members, and now we will discuss its most infamous component, its end. I will recount the factors leading up to their final exit, how the exit appeared to happen, and whether or not we should call this tragedy a suicide or a murder. We will also discuss the concept of free will. So the first factor was the death of Bonnie Lou Nuttles. Her death began the end of Heaven's Gate. From what Marshall Applewhite described in a Terry audio tape to Nuttles' daughter Terry, Nuttles felt pain in her back. Trip to the doctor revealed cancer in her liver. Not much could be done about it at the time of diagnosis, so she went home for palliative care and passed away. This wrecked the current belief system of the cult. The selling point of Heaven's Gate was that you did not need to die to go to heaven. Once you overcame your human ways, you board a spaceship to heaven. Applewhite permitted followers to go home to their families while he figured out the next steps. Upon their return, Applewhite proclaimed a change of belief system. Bonnie Lou Nuttles had just burned out her vehicle because she had so much cosmic energy. Applewhite told the class that your soul needed to leave your body to go to heaven, but you would get a better one upon entrance to the next level. Right now, he and the class were just borrowing bodies. After a few failed attempts to recruit, Applewhite guided the class towards being open to the idea of suicide. When Applewhite asked about being okay with suicide, only one person got up and left. Around the time of these discussions, Ruby Ridge and Waco occurred. This inspired Applewhite to have the class buy guns and learn to use them. He believed that the government was after him, and that they would transition to the next level by a government confrontation. He encouraged prospective members to bring their own guns if they wanted to join the class. This never came to pass, so he turned to a book about suicide for terminally ill patients. He kept this idea on the back burner while waiting for the next level to send him a sign. That sign came in the form of a message on a radio show called Coast to Coast AM, which was known for its conspiracy theories. In 1996, the comet Hale-Bopp came close to the Earth. Someone called into the show and claimed they saw a spaceship in the comet shadow. They claimed to have done this by a process called remote viewing, where you just go out of your body, astral project, and you can see anything. Pretty wild. One of the members, whose name was Tal Lodi, fervently listened to Coast and listened to this message. He informed Doe of what he heard, and Doe took it as a sign that T was on her way to pick the class up. Doe discovered that March 1997 would be when the comet was closest to the Earth, setting his plans for exit in motion. First, the class took a few trips. They went to SeaWorld, Las Vegas, Tijuana. They gambled at a casino shaped like a UFO and won a few bucks. It's kind of giving like Last Holiday before she realizes that her brain scan was wrong. Upon their return from their trips, the class filmed their goodbye videos. 35 students state why they were happy to be going through with their plans. Some members cried in their videos, and people laughed and responded. One member notably ended her video with 39 to beam up. Doe made his own exit video. In it, he looks tired and old and ready to leave this planet. He sits in a plastic lawn chair just like the ones from the student videos. Beside him is an empty chair representing T. He talks about how ready the class is to transcend human forms. He shows off the uniforms they are all wearing. Each member wears a black t-shirt with a patch on it that says Heaven's Gate Away Team. They all are wearing the same black slacks and Nike Decade sneakers. Doe has the camera pointed at each class member and mentions something notable about it. Like, this person was really helpful in the fiber lab. This person was helpful in the neutral lab. Sir Rhodey was the class clown. That sort of thing. These recordings were mailed to contacts worldwide, including a member who had left not too long before the exit. Rio DeAngelo, or during his time in the class, Riotti, had convinced Doe that his purpose was to stay on Earth and tell the world the story of Heaven's Gate. Doe agreed with this and let him go. Rio DeAngelo would be the one to find the bodies after the suicides were completed. So, how did the members pass away? As with all activities in the cult, there were instructions for this procedure. First, each member signed out as though they were leaving the house for a job or something. On the sign-out sheet, there's a column for expected return time, and some members left it blank, some wrote never, and some wrote jokes in that space like hasta la vista, baby. Next, each member was assigned to a group. The suicides took place in 3 distinct waves, according to the medical examiner. Doe was in the second group of deaths. Then came the actual method for exiting the vehicle. Each member received a cup of applesauce or pudding. They ate a bite of it to make room in the cup to add the pills. Once the pills were in the cup, the member consumed them quickly. They chased their deadly snack down with vodka. After consuming the pills, which were barbiturates, which is used in the lethal injection, they consumed the pills and vodka. They laid on their bed as another member waited with them. Once the member fell asleep, the other member tied a bag over their head. Once the member died, the other member cleaned up the body, removed the bag, and laid a purple shroud over their head. Easter was coming not long after the grand exit, and T loved the color purple, so purple was their choice for the shroud. Rio DeAngelo received materials from Heaven's Gate in the mail a few days after the deaths. He received instructions to come to the house through an door. He went in and had to spray cologne and put a shirt over his nose because of the wretched stench of decaying bodies in the California heat. He recorded the bodies lying in the beds and cots. Notably, Dell was in the master bed on a giant mattress. Once Rio finished recording, he called in an anonymous tip to the police. For days, images of the bodies crossed television screens. Nike discontinued that line of sneakers, though a pair can be found for $6,000 on eBay. That following weekend, Will Ferrell did an opening for Saturday Night Live, poking fun at the suicides. As with Jonestown, the deaths of these people were reduced to a joke about crazy people, and that diminishes the human aspect of these people. In a previous episode, I talked about who these people were. These were intelligent people. The body is wired to survive as much as possible until it breaks down or some greater force destroys it. How great was that force of belief? It begs the question of how far someone is willing to go for the things they believe in. I think of the martyrs of my own Catholic faith who became saints. Many had to choose between their life or giving up their faith, and they decided to keep their faith in God, even when the wild animals tore them to shreds, even when the fires burned their flesh, even when the sword separated their body from their head. These people died with God's name on their tongues. I also think the people who died in the American Revolution. They figured they would not see their land free from British rule, but they all marched into battle. How strongly did they believe in this idea that they would let themselves die painful deaths? I want to hear from you listeners as to what it would take for you to do something drastic. And now we've got to discuss whether or not the deaths were murders or suicides. Quite a few people seem to be willing to take this step, notably Cerroti, even Sawyer, who survived and left the group before the deaths, said he probably would have. But the father of Gail Mater, one of the people who died in that house, said it was one suicide and multiple murders. These members basically begged Doe to keep the class moving after T's death. So there is a willingness aspect in there. So I think quite a few people did commit suicide. On the other hand, there were students who made those videos that seemed really scared, and people laughed at them. I think quite a few people were peer pressured into taking this drastic step. So I think in the end, it was a mix. And the beliefs of Heaven's Gate are odd to us, but they held so much power that 39 people passed away. Thank you for listening to this episode of How Did We Get Here? I apologize for my absence and silence. Starting my education to become a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and one of my children started daycare. I've had some stress with those transitions, but I'm going to continue this show. This is my passion project. Episodes might not be released regularly until my semester ends, but when I do release episodes, they're gonna be good. Focus of my next couple of episodes will be on more modern cults like that TikTok dance cult. So stay tuned. If you like the show, please follow it, rate it, and share it with a friend. Please follow me on social media at EmmyCast1018. Until next time, stay informed, stay aware, and stay safe. Thank you.